Who is the prophet that everyone keeps talking about in The Last of Us Season 2? And did the show just reveal her and we did not even notice? Season 2 introduced Hanrahan, a mysterious new character that doesn't exist in the games, who I think may be the founder of the Seraphites, aka the Prophet. So in this video, we're going to break down who Hanrahan is and why she is the Prophet and just how important she is to the story. I think we should start off first with who is the Prophet. Why do the Seraphites follow her? And why do they have those scars on their faces? The Prophet is a character that has actually never physically appeared in the Last of Us games. The only reason we know what she looks like is because of the murals that her followers have made in her image. And based off these images from the game, she looks an awful lot like the character Hanrahan that was introduced in The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 4. But we'll get into the history of Hanrahan a little bit later in this video. What we do know of the Prophet is that she is the founder of the Seraphites. The legend claims that in Seattle, shortly after the cordyceps outbreak, the Prophet had a vision from God telling her that the cordyceps outbreak was God's will punishing humanity for their sins, which inspired her to live an egalitarian life because humanity needed to detach themselves from technology as well as physical pleasures. She began preaching to the other survivors of the outbreak that the pandemic was a punishment from God and they needed to repent for their sins. If humanity wanted to redeem itself, they would have to change their ways. Her ability to protect those who followed her, and with her sermons, her followers began to call her the Prophet. People willingly gave up their earthly possessions, converted to her teachings, and as more people came, the more powerful she became. People from Fedra as well as WLF started joining her cause and joining the Seraphites because they saw the peaceful egalitarian life that she provided for her people, as well as the protection, food, and shelter, along with the constant reminder to remind people to subscribe to the Bin Zone for more breakdowns like this. It got to the point where WLF, but more specifically Isaac, thought she became too powerful. If you guys remember the ending of episode 3 of season 2, we saw how powerful WLF was. They had trained soldiers as well as tanks, but they still deemed the Prophet was too powerful. And I think that's because while weapons and soldiers can be powerful things, we all know that there is nothing more powerful than religion. The belief in something or someone greater than yourself, which is why the Prophet as well as the Seraphites became too powerful, causing Isaac to kill the Prophet using his WLF soldiers. They were able to ambush and capture the Prophet. Isaac then executed her to make a statement. This was his second mistake. The first mistake was letting Abby go after Joel, but that's a topic for another video. But by killing the Prophet, he turned her into a martyr, because in death, her influence and legend became a rallying cry for the Seraphites, causing them to become even more fanatical. That is exactly what makes the Seraphites so different from any other groups in the world of The Last of Us. For one, just how ritualistically brutal they are. We saw how they strung up members of the WLF as though they were sacrificing them at the altar of the Prophet. But the main distinction between the Seraphites and everyone else is their Glasgow smiles, aka the scars they have on their faces. These scars are self-inflicted as part of their initiation into the group, almost like their version of a baptism. Once you get the scars, you have fully committed to the teachings of the Prophet by literally wearing your faith on your face as a reminder to yourself and everyone else of your holy mortification, showing just how far your belief goes. Because of that, all the rules and traditions of the Seraphites are strict. Once the Prophet died, a group of elders called the Elders took over the group and assigned every member their role in the community, such as farmers, soldiers, etc. They even practiced arranged marriages, very archaic practices, and as such, they use archaic weapons like hammers, arrows, instead of modern weaponry. Even their methods of communication, instead of walkie-talkies or other modern forms of communication, they came up with their own elaborate whistling and other types of secret coded communication methods, which they keep very secret. Their belief system, along with the death and martyrdom of the Prophet, caused them to deify her, painting her image everywhere and spreading her word like the gospel. And like I said earlier, if you look closely at the images of the Prophet, I think they look like Hanrahan. Hanrahan is a character that was created exclusively for the show. She doesn't appear in any of the games, And when we're first introduced to her in the show, it is during the Isaac flashback when we learn how Isaac betrayed Fedra to join her cause. That's where the show decides to do things differently from the game. In the game, when Isaac betrayed Fedra and joined WLF, it was under the leadership of Emma and James Patterson, the people who founded the WLF. But the show decided to make Hanrahan the one to recruit Isaac, a completely new character created just for the show. And another thing about this intro scene that I noticed is how the people behind her were following her. They seem more like devoted followers than trained soldiers that the WLF is known to have had in their fight against Fedra. Hanrahan may have started off as a member of the WLF because they opposed the way Fedra was running things. That's the same reason why Isaac betrayed Fedra and joined the WLF. But unlike Isaac, Hanrahan herself probably got disillusioned with the way that WLF started to run things. If we compare the way we see the WLF operating and the way that we saw Fedra operating in season 1, it's very similar, very militaristic. Isaac essentially turning the WLF into the very things that he and Han joined the WLF to fight against. If Hanrahan suddenly got disillusioned with that lifestyle or got visions that she herself thought came from God, then that would make her the prophet. The show has already changed a few things in season 2 from the story of the games, but especially in season 2 episode 4. For example, when Dina tells Ellie that she is pregnant, in the show, Ellie is super supportive and looks forward to starting a family with her. However, in the game, Ellie called Dina a burden and now she is pregnant. That is a sharp difference. While it doesn't change the main narrative of the show when it comes to Ellie's journey, it does add an interesting new dynamic to the story to flesh the characters out. The same thing could be done with Isaac's character to flesh him out by making the prophet Hanrahan. This adds a whole new layer to the character of Isaac, making his conflict with the Seraphites that much more interesting. By having Hanrahan as the prophet and the person that introduced Isaac to the WLF, that would mean they would have been friends. And from what we know about Isaac from that introduction flashback is he doesn't make friends easily and he trusts people even less. But he chooses to trust her, betray Fedra and everything he knows to join her and the WLF. Hanrahan starting to follow a more spiritual route to becoming the prophet and initially starting the Seraphites. The type of man that Isaac is, I could see him seeing this as a total betrayal, which leads to their split and eventual war between the Seraphites and the WLF. You can almost see it in the way that he's torturing the Seraphite zealot in episode 4 of season 2. The way Isaac went about it, it felt more personal than anything. The very idea of her bothers him. The idea that they think she is a prophet when he actually knew her. I think it makes sense why he would execute her, hoping to stop her religion from growing. But in doing so, he made that situation far more worse, which led to an all-out war between the two factions, where WLF massacred the Seraphites and the Seraphites massacred the WLF. But clearly the Seraphites are winning. They are converting people from the WLF every day, while no one from the Seraphites are leaving and joining the WLF. Making Hanrahan the prophet gives us a face and a deeper backstory to their origins, and adding emotional layers to Isaac's character besides that of a crazy military leader, which makes the background conflict that much more interesting by expanding character depth and history like they did in season 1 with the Bill and Frank episode. But guys, that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in the comment section below. Do you think Hanrahan is the prophet? Let me know in the comment section below. And guys, that's it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.